Alright, in this video we're going to look at some commonly missed problems from Pre-Cal's first exam, and I'm going to try to do this page by page. So this is page 1. Okay. So one version, they both had some sort of factoring negative exponents out. So we have negative 3x to the minus 4, x plus 1 to the minus 1/2, and minus 1/2 x to the negative 3, and then x plus 1 to the minus 3/2. Okay, so this is something we've practiced a bunch in class. You had it on your exam review. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to look at the numbers, the negative 3 and the negative 1/2, and I want to factor out the fraction. And because they're both negative, we might factor out a negative also. So we're going to factor out a negative half. Then we're going to look at the x's. Okay, when we factor out, anytime with the x's, we factor out the lowest exponent. So the lowest exponent here is x to the minus 4. So we factor out x to the minus 4. And then the x plus 1's, we're going to factor out the lowest exponent, which is minus 3/2. Okay, now what's going to be happening is I'm going to be factoring out, for instance, the x minus 4. That means I'm going to be subtracting negative 4, which means I'm really going to be adding 4 to the exponents there. For the x plus 1 to the minus 3/2, when I factor that out, I'm going to be subtracting negative 3/2, which means I'm going to be adding 3/2 to each one of those exponents. Okay. Now, because I factored out a negative 1/2 from the negative 3, I need to compensate. So negative 1/2 times 6 will be negative 3. Now I'm subtracting negative 3/2 from negative 1/2, so I'm really adding 3/2 to negative 1/2, which means I'm getting 2 over 2, or 1. So I get x plus 1. Now the orange x is not even there because we factored out x to the minus 4, and there's nobody there. Alright, then for the next one, all that we got left is we factored out all the x plus 1, we factored out the minus 1/2, and we factored out an x to the minus 4 out of an x to the minus 3, so we add 4 to the minus 3 and we get first power. Okay. Then what we just need to do is clean up the stuff in the yellow brackets there. So we have negative 1/2, x to the minus 1/4, x plus 1 to the negative 3/2, and then 7x plus 6. Okay, so that was one version of the test. The other one had something very similar, so we're going to go ahead and go through that one as well. So the other version had negative 2, x to the minus 3, x plus 1 to the 1/2 power, plus 1/2 x to the minus 2, and then x plus 1 to the minus 1/2 power. So it's going to be very similar to the last one. We're going to first factor out, I got a fraction of 1/2, so we're going to factor out a fraction of 1/2. They're not both negative, so I'm not going to worry about factoring out a negative here. Lowest exponent is x to the minus 3. Lowest exponent of x plus 1 is the minus 1/2 power, so that's what we're going to go ahead and factor out. Okay. Now, if I factor 1/2 out of negative 2, I need to compensate that, so that I'm going to be dividing by 2, so to compensate I need to multiply by 2, so that'll become a negative 4. We factored out all the x to the minus 3, so that's not there, and then the x plus 1 will be to the first power, because what we did is we said, okay, well, you have pre-existing exponent of minus 1/2. If we factor out negative 1/2, we're actually going to be adding 1/2, so that gives us 2 over 2, and that gives us an exponent of 1 there. Okay. Now if we look at the second part, we factored out the 1/2. We factored out x to the minus 3 from x to the minus 2, so we're just going to have x to the first power left over, and we completely factored out x plus 1 to the minus 1/2. Okay, the last thing we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and distribute in the yellow brackets and kind of clean things up. So we have 1/2 x to the minus 3, x plus 1 to the minus 1/2. And what we got left there is a negative 3x and a minus 4 after we distribute and combine their like terms. What I went ahead and did is I said, okay, well, in the brackets there, they both had a negative. So I'm going to go ahead and factor that negative out as well. Now, you could have left your answer as the third line here, or you can factor out the negative like we have here in the fourth line. They're both the same. They're both fine. Okay, so this is a skill that you're going to need to use with something called the quotient and the chain rule, or maybe it's the chain rule with a power rule. So it's something that you'll need to know how to do for Cal 1. So these are skills that we're building. Okay, the other problem missed a bunch on the first page was we had a compound fraction. So we had a to the negative 2 minus b to the negative 2 over a to the minus 1 plus b to the minus 1. So what this really requires us is two things. One, we need to know what negative exponents mean. So if we have x to the minus n, that means 1 over x to the n. Okay, so we need to know that, and then two, we need to know how to find common denominator so we can clear our fractions. That's all we really need to do. All we need to know for this problem. Okay, so as a friendly reminder, a to the minus 2 means 1 over a squared. 2 times a to the minus 1 means 2 over a. Those are very different. Okay, so rewriting, this is going to be 1 over a squared plus 1 over b squared divided by 1 over a plus 1 over b. Our common denominator here is going to be a squared b squared. So we're going to multiply the top and the bottom of this compound or complex fraction, however you want to call it, by the common denominator. Then we'll distribute the a squared b squared to the top, and we get b squared minus a squared divided by ab squared plus a squared b. The top is a difference of squares, factors into a minus b, a plus b. The bottom has a GCF of AB, so we factor that out and get B plus A. Common factors of A plus B will divide out, and we're left with A minus B divided by AB. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and take a look at the other version. So the other version, we have A to the minus 1 minus B to the minus 1 divided by A to the minus 2 plus B to the minus 2. Okay, again, as a friendly reminder, a to the minus 2 is 1 over a squared. 2 times a to the minus 1, that just means 2. Oops, and I made a mistake. So that means 2 over a. Okay. Alright, so rewriting 1 over a minus 1 over b over 1 over a squared plus 1 over b squared. This compound fraction, common denominator here is a squared b squared, so that's what we're going to multiply the numerator and the denominator by. So upstairs we have ab squared minus a squared b. On the bottom we have b squared plus a squared. We can factor the numerator. They have a common factor of ab, and the denominator is a sum of squares, so we don't mess with the sauce, we just leave it alone. And that is it. Okay. So if you missed these ones, they weren't meant to be too hard. You just needed to follow some basic properties, some stuff that you had in class and on your practice tests. You just got to keep practicing it.